Have you had to change your skill set in-house, or have you looked for support externally to sort of meet these new worlds you're venturing into?
So upskilling internally and having a consistency in our approach, because the danger is if we just suddenly did everything with external agencies, they just don't know the brand as well. So what I've been trying to do is to think about how we tell the stories behind the brand, and particularly around, why we believe that our chocolate is better, and what we're doing also to improve the cocoa industry, because I think today consumers are far more interested in brands that are actually also trying to do some good in the world. So we really start to work through how we're going to tell those stories, how they're going to unfold over time. And we have now started to work with some external agencies to complement our capabilities and just the volume of things that we can get out, because we are a small team.
What's the response to that been like?
We've seen much more engagement from our consumers. It's also led to a lot more user-generated content.
Welcome to Content Talks, brought to you by River Sounds, where we discuss how to get the best out of your content marketing investment. There are many ways to get your content to market, but in this episode we discuss content collaborations. Should you work with an agency or do it all in-house? We were lucky enough to be joined by Lysa Hardy, Board Director and CMO of Hotel Chocolat, who helped us highlight the benefits of various content creation methods. Lysa, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. How's everything going?
Really well, actually. Yeah.
Good.
I mean, this is our busy time. Everyone loves chocolate all year round, but particularly at Christmas. So busy, but all good.
I can imagine. Yeah. Fantastic time to work for Hotel Chocolat. So to kick off, can you tell us a little bit about your chocolate career to date, and sort of how you got the position of CMO at one of Britain's best loved brands?
Yeah, so I've known the business effectively since they launched. I was a customer very early on, and I've had a career in retail and marketing, and I really admired what they were doing as a retailer, because they were really not conforming with the norms of retail, and I was curious about that. So I've watched them very closely for many years. I'm also a big chocolate fan, so I love their product. And then last year I had a call literally out of the blue from a headhunter saying they were looking to appoint their first CMO. It was a new board role, recognising the scale the business is now at. And they had me at free chocolate.
Wow. I can imagine they would have had me too. So can you tell us a little bit about Hotel Chocolat and its business objectives?
Yeah, so I mean, Hotel Chocolat has a mission to give the world access to better quality chocolate. And it's probably a misunderstood fact that most of what people think of as chocolate is actually confectionery. So if you go into a supermarket and pick up a bar of pretty much any brand, the first ingredient is very probably going to be sugar. And our view is that means it's not chocolate, it's confectionery.
Wow, okay.
So we absolutely have a rule that our number one ingredient is always cocoa or cacao, as it's traditionally known. And we have a philosophy of more cocoa, less sugar. Now, 100% cocoa chocolate, I don't know if you've tried it. It's definitely an acquired taste.
I can imagine, yeah.
So we do have to put an element of sugar in to suit the palate of what people enjoy and would want to buy. But we try to keep that to a minimum. And I guess we have a secondary objective, which is whilst we're trying to educate the world on better chocolate and bring better chocolate to people, to also improve the cocoa industry while we're doing it.
Wow, that's a fantastic objective.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what you say about the confectionery, because Hotel Chocolat is, I mean, arguably, objectively nicer than much of the confectionery chocolates. But yeah, it's got such a high cacao quantity in it. So what's your role within the business, and sort of what are the broad deliverables that you're in charge of?
So my title is Chief Marketing Officer, but my accountability is wider than that, really, what people would typically expect a CMO to be responsible for. So I am, of course, responsible for marketing and all of the sort of customer-facing communications that we have, all of the work that we do around brand, and how that permeates across the business, across all of our channels. I'm also responsible for e-commerce. So we have a website, which is a good proportion of our sales. So how we're trading that website, how we're presenting ourselves on that website, and the content associated with that website. I also we have an internal agency, so we do our creative work in-house currently. So I run that team.
Wow.
I run our CRM team. So we're just stepping up really our skills and capability on customer relationship management. And I also run, which is my favourite part of my job, the category and product team. So looking at what new products we will range, testing and tasting those products, approving those products, and all the commercials that go with that.
Brilliant. So how do you determine what the customer journey looks like for your customer cohorts?
So I think for me, I've worked in a number of retail sectors, and the philosophy is pretty much the same, is that you've got to start with the customer and put the customer at the heart of it. So understand who your customer is, understand why they're buying your products or your service, and understand how they want to do that and what opportunities you have to elevate that experience. One of the reasons that we've been improving our skills in CRM is so that we can get better insight and understanding of that.
Right.
And as we've grown as a business, we've gone from a customer base who was probably pretty savvy about chocolate and cacao already to a more mass market customer base. So there's an opportunity. We can't assume that those customers shop with us because we've got more cocoa and we're very ethical about how we do business. They shop with us because they love our product. So there's an opportunity to interject in that customer journey to help educate them about the cocoa industry and the product, help entertain them with our brand. So really, it kind of starts and ends with being led by the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. So you create that sort of interjection all in-house, all from you guys at Hotel Chocolat. What channels do you create the content for, and for what purpose, besides the sort of that interjection?
So historically, I joined the business just over a year ago. And historically, the business was very physical location centric. So everything was oriented around our shops. And we did a little bit online, but it was more about trading rather than a customer experience online. So one of the things that I've done since joining the business is to start to look across every touch point the customer has with us. And that, of course, that could be in a shop. It could be on the website. It could be in social media or on Instagram. It could actually be receiving a gift through the post that somebody sent directly to them. So all of those are opportunities for us to tell our brand story and deliver some kind of content. So we now have a much more centralized view across all channels of what are the stories we want to tell.
Right.
And a sort of more overarching approach then about, okay, if this is the story, we might tell it slightly in a different way through the channels or deliver it in a different way. But this is the story we want to tell, and that's consistent across the touch points.
Fantastic.
So we have moved on quite a lot in the last 12 months.
Yeah, brilliant. So do you need to get a buy-in from within the business to support in-house content creation? And are your most senior team in support of the value of content, or did you have to take them on the journey with you?
So in terms of buy-in, I guess the advantage of me having a board position is I'm empowered to make a lot of decisions. However, Hotel Chocolat was founded by two guys, Peter and Angus. They are still very much in the business. So it's really important that they are aligned to, and I am aligned to, where we are going. The brand was invented by them. It very much kind of personifies what they are as people. So, so the main piece for me is just to make sure that there's alignment with Angus and Peter, and that we're all kind of very cohesive and together in terms of where we're taking the brand and the customer journey. In terms of the team, that has been quite a transition. So there were skills gaps in the team that we just didn't have from a kind of modern day marketing function. So I would say I have probably changed 80% of the marketing team to bring in skills and experience really in helping us really move things forward in terms of how we talk to our customers through our channels.
Brilliant. So what do those skills look like in practice that you've been looking for to enhance your team? So
social media is a classic one. So there was actually nobody managing social media in the business when I joined. And so stuff happened, but it was very disjointed. And if you'd have looked at our feeds, a couple of years ago, it was quite evident that there was nobody really managing it.
Right.
So I now have a social media manager in the business. And we have a number of different channels because we've got some different sub-brands. So Hotel Chocolat is obviously our key master brand, but we also have a beauty business called Rabo 1745.
Okay.
And so we do things under the Rabo brand as well. We also have a restaurant in Borough Market, also called Rabo. So Rabo is the name of our estate in St. Lucia, where we actually grow some of our own cocoa.
Right.
And so we have a restaurant that has sort of a Caribbean-inspired menu in Borough Market. So we have our own feeds for Rabo. So we also have a hotel on our plantation in St. Lucia. And so what that social media manager does is actually looks across all of those brands and make sure that they're doing their own thing individually in terms of what's relevant to their customers and their audience, but that it all wraps up cohesively under the Hotel Chocolat master brand.
Right. So those channels, they cross over quite often, do they, to support one another? Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes definitely not. They're doing different things, but sometimes they come together. So things like, World Chocolate Day. We are a brand that's rooted in cacao, whether it's the hotel, the restaurant, or even the beauty brand, actually. So World Chocolate Day, we're all aligned and we're doing the same thing.
Brilliant. So from a practical point of view, how is each element of your content ecosystem managed? So you've got social media, managing the social media. How are the other elements of the ecosystem managed?
So I've made a few changes there. Again, it's all about really bringing cohesiveness and sort of bigger thinking. So we had a copywriting team led by a very talented copywriter who actually is an ex-editor and journalist. And so we've sort of repositioned her role to be head of brand voice. So she really has oversight of everything that we're doing in terms of storytelling to make sure that it's reflecting our brand and that we're using the right tone of voice and the right language. So she doesn't so much focus on a channel particularly, but really just the oversight piece.
Right.
And then we have the way that we manage it is we have a monthly content and editorial meeting. And we bring together the people across the business that are looking after different channels. And we talk about, right, what are the stories next month? Which are the channels? Is that going to be all channels? Is it going to be some channels? How's that going to be relevant? What angle are we going to take? So we really start to work through how we're going to tell those stories, how they're going to unfold over time. And we have now started to work with some external agencies to complement our capabilities and just the volume of things that we can get out because we are a small team. And so we make sure that where we're working with an agency, they're involved in that. So they have oversight, kind of sight of everything that we're doing across all the channels.
Right, so it's just really important, I suppose, that you're constantly working with one another from each head of each channel to make sure it's all cohesive, and that's your sort of main mission, to ensure that it all works together.
Absolutely.
Constantly in communication, make sure that narrative is strong.
Yeah.
So have the types of content that you created changed at all for the new strands?
Yes, absolutely. So I think when I first joined, my obviously before you join a business, you look at their social media as a kind of a gauge of what they're doing. And there was a lot of product content. In fact, it was almost exclusively, today it's this chocolate, tomorrow it's another chocolate, and then the next day it's a different chocolate. And I was like, okay, so it's chocolate. And guess what? Your Hotel Chocolat, I kind of know you do chocolate. So what I've been trying to do is to think about how we tell the stories behind the brand, and particularly around why we believe that our chocolate is better, and what we're doing also to improve the cocoa industry, because I think today consumers are far more interested in brands that are actually also trying to do some good in the world. So that sort of moved us very quickly into using video for storytelling, which the business had not done before. It was all image based. So and that's again where we've had to bring in some agency help to get, more moving image.
Sure.
And also different photography. So not just photography of our product, but, photography of the environments that we work in. We try and do more around, meeting the people behind the business, not just the product. We've got a development kitchen. So we not only develop all of our recipes in the UK, we manufacture all of our product in the UK. And that's a story, again, that I don't think we were telling.
Yeah.
So showing some of the humans behind the product and the fact that they're here in the UK and we develop everything from scratch, it's actually something that our customers have really engaged with. Yeah.
It sounds like you're really evolving the way the content's created and creating some really strong and engaging narratives for Hotel Chocolat. What's the response to that been like?
It's been fantastic, actually. So we've seen much more engagement from our consumers. It's also led to a lot more user-generated content. So I think because people are more engaged with us now, rather than just being a chocolate passing through their newsfeed, we've got a point of view, and therefore they're wanting to respond back with a point of view. So we're seeing a lot more comments on our posts and on our content. We're seeing a lot more people posting things back to kind of reflect their view on something. And that's brilliant, because not only does it get customers more engaged, but it's really helpful insight for us to see what customers are posting back, because it tells us a lot about what's resonating with them, where their heads are at in terms of our brand, and then helps inform our forward plans.
Yeah, I suppose encouraging that user-generated content is the most valuable thing for a brand. And yeah, as you say, seeing what is going on in their heads and their response to things is
and a good
invaluable.
example of that is we launched ice cream of the gods a couple of years ago, which is an ice cream that is infused with cacao nibs. So it doesn't taste overly chocolatey, but it's got a very delicate and rich flavour to it.
Sounds wonderful.
Cacao actually has a lot of health benefits, and I'm not trying to tell you that ice cream is healthy, but some of the properties of the good properties of cacao kind of come into the ice cream, and but we only had a few stores with ice cream machines because the machine's quite expensive, and it was a bit of a test. And what we noticed when we started to put more focus on social media was our customers posting loads of pictures of them with their ice creams, meeting their friends for ice creams, a real kind of social occasion. And what that told us was that, the product was resonating. People were loving the ice cream. And so we decided to invest and expand the locations that you can actually have access to ice cream. And then it kind of mushroomed. And then customers were saying, when are you going to get an ice cream machine in my local Hotel Chocolat? And from there, this is all in the course of 12 months. This summer, we've been able to really focus on our drinks and ices proposition. So we've now got choc shakes, we've got ice cream sundaes with different chocolate toppings. And we've been a business that typically saw a slight dip in footfall in sales in the summer months because people don't necessarily gravitate to chocolate when it's very hot. To actually, by expanding that drinks and ices proposition, we've seen us grow sales and footfall in the summer months. So it's had a profound impact on our commercial performance.
Yeah, it really has. It's fascinating to hear how it's bloomed out all these new products and had an incredible impact on the brand itself. That's fantastic. So do you have a content dissemination tool?
No. So again, one of the challenges I suppose I've had in joining the business was not just that we didn't have the skills, but we didn't have kind of the systems and IT infrastructure either to support that. Mm-hmm. So I guess my approach has been, let's get on with it whilst we build some of those things. So we've got fairly clunky ways of doing things. We use an awful lot of Dropbox, which is really not ideal. We have just put in a digital asset management system. So at least we can store everything in one place and find content and search for content. Whereas before it was literally, on some individual's computer, and whoever was in the office that day might be able to find it. It was that bad. So we've got to a slightly better place, but we're now at the place of saying, okay, this is a key area for us. We've got to invest and look forward at how we actually manage this. Mm-hmm. But that also includes, do we keep everything in-house or do we start to outsource some aspects of that?
Right, okay. So at the moment, obviously, most of the content you do, other than the video, is in-house. So what do you get from having your in-house team so close to the customer? And would you ever pass that responsibility on to an agency?
I think the benefit of us doing it in-house currently and historically has been we have a group of people that really understand our brand and really understand our customer and can respond to that very quickly. We are a very innovative culture, so we have a lot of things that change last minute, a lot of new ideas that come in very late in the day.
Can imagine. And
having a team in-house that's used to responding to that and working together means we can still execute very well. I guess what I've done by bringing in some sort of selective support from outside for particular projects has shown that we can still manage to maintain that equilibrium whilst adding in some real expertise in key areas. Mm-hmm. So I think the question I've got now is we are scaling globally. So we've just opened in Japan and New York. So we're now in the 3 biggest chocolate markets on the planet, which is brilliant and it's going really well. But obviously in those 2 markets, we're brand new as a brand. So we've got even more storytelling to do.
Absolutely.
Plus we've got the complication of language, slightly different culture. So I guess my thought is, because my current creative team are UK centric, is that the opportunity where we start to work with partners that have got that global expertise that can translate much more quickly and much more ably our stories into those local markets. So that's kind of what my conundrum right now is what's the right time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me nicely onto my next question. Have you had to change your skill set in-house, or have you looked for support externally to sort of meet these new worlds you're venturing into?
Bit of both. So I think we have tried to change some of the skill set internally, and also just get some of the existing skills looking at things differently. So we have a strong design team, but the design team weren't looking at the Instagram grid. So, actually now having a designer who's responsible for curating that grid and making sure it looks right all the time and is optimized has really had benefits. We also have started to bring in some additional skills like retouching, because actually we were just paying a ridiculous amount of money on retouching because we'd upped the volume of photography that we were putting out there. But then things like video, we've just decided to use outside resource for that right now. Okay,
so why did you choose this arrangement, and how does your organisation benefit?
I think I suppose it's the combination of those things that we've benefited from. So we've benefited from upskilling internally and having a consistency in our approach, because the danger is if we just suddenly did everything with external agencies, they just don't know the brand as well straight away. It takes time. So we've got that consistency going through with a creative director who's been in the business for 5 years, who's superbly talented. And, she gets oversight of everything that's happening. So from a customer point of view, nothing looks any different. We're just doing more of it.
Yeah.
But we've benefited from bringing in those additional skills so for video, for example, rather than us sort of learning our way and getting it not quite right to start with, we've worked with some world-class partners that mean, what we're putting out there is exceptional quality, and the execution is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can do more quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you measure the success of those ventures?
I suppose ultimately I measure it in sales. The objective, marketing is about selling stuff fundamentally, but I do look at more detailed measures. So things like brand awareness, brand engagement, brand consideration. So we've started to track those things to show that what we're doing creatively is deepening our relationship with our customers.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on the sales. That's fantastic. You're obviously doing some really great work. So would you ever consider a collaborative approach with an agency to evolve your marketing strategy at the same pace that consumers' interests evolve?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I'm a big fan of working with agencies. I think it's important you find the right agency, not just on talent, because there's many talented agencies out there, but also on culture. And the way that you work inside the business has to be in sync with the way the agency works.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely, I would consider that, especially as I say, we're now sort of globally expanding. It feels like we've gone from first gear to third gear, and now we need to go to fifth gear. And I think we need to really sort of amplify what we're able to do.
Right. So the culture of that agency would have to be in fifth gear to match that acceleration.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So if you had 3 takeaways for the listeners on how content strategy will and should evolve in terms of new channels and types of content in 2020 and beyond, what would they be?
I think number 1 is about where the customer interacts with your content. I think it's kind of a default to say it has to be in a digital channel. And certainly our experience with our customers is that's not always the case. So we've got, 120 store locations across the country, and they are prime places for us to get content into the hands of our customers and to get them engaged. So I think, think more widely across all of your channels around how you can tell the stories and how you can get the content out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second for me is to think about the kind of content that you want to deliver and what's the best way to tell a story. Again, I think sometimes, whatever the latest trend is for delivering content, every story gets shoehorned into that method of delivery. And sometimes delivering it in a slightly different way can actually make it even more engaging and deepen the interaction with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's the second one. And I think the third one is to just think about what's the best way to develop that content, and how can you use the people that you have and supplement that with additional skills if you need it, to really get the best execution that you can.
Fantastic. I think that's great advice. Hotel Chocolat is a fantastic brand. So, well done. Congratulations on helping it evolve and increasing sales and really showing your passion and love for the brand. It's wonderful to see. And Lysa, you've been great. So thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us. And we hope to speak to you again at some point.
Great. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you.
It's not information overload, it's filter failure.
So sick of being told something changed right in front of their eyes.
Enough is enough. Like, I'm not getting worse from this point.
How are the guys at Barcelona training? How are the guys at Man United training? Instead of just staying in the bubble.
A growing number of big brands are communicating with their customers through podcasts, helping engage on a whole new level.
Podcast listeners create strong trust with brands through podcast.
76% of UK listeners have acted on a podcast ad. Listenership is growing across all age groups, notably in young adults aged 15 to 24.
With around 1 in 5 now listening to podcasts every week.
Growing statistics like this prove that podcasts are a medium not to be ignored.
So, what's stopping you bringing your brand to the conversation?
River Sounds is a division of the River Group. We work with companies globally to create and distribute original podcasts to augment their branding and marketing efforts.
We leverage existing content, such as blogs and social media, to design, plan, create, and distribute high-quality podcasts.
We focus on creating podcasts that increase brand awareness, aid in customer education, and help support customer retention.
It's time for your brand to make some noise. River Sounds. Bring your brand to the conversation.